Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Keith and Brandon back with you. And in this week's episode, I wanted to talk about the evolution of glass wine cellars.
Ooh.
So, Keith, do you remember the first wine cellar or one of the first that you installed that you were super proud of?
I I'll never forget it. And the reason for that is the customer had an area underneath their stairs where they had already pre-bought some wine racks. I don't know if it was Vintage View or one of those where they're kind of an erector set they bought online. They drilled them into the wall and they hung their bottles. And we were just putting glass on the outside of it, straight across with a return. It wasn't even chilled. So it was more of like a display. And during the install, I went out there because it was the first one I wanted to be a part of it. My belt loop got caught on one of those little coat hangers. And not only did it rattle enough for a bottle to fall, but the bottle fell and broke. But not only did the bottle wiggle and fall and break, it happened to be by far the most expensive piece of wine that I didn't even know existed. It was called Scarecrow. And if you look it up, knowing what I know now, I should have been on all fours sucking that wine off the ground because it was north of $4,000 or $5,000.
Wow.
So when you say, do you remember your first wine cellar? I'll never forget it because it ended up costing me money to build. But the lesson that I learned here was we would always have the clients if it was an application like this, we'd always have the customers moving forward, take the wine out because, you're in tight spaces, you're focused what's in front of you and, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's like the first time drilling into a pocket door, putting in a shower door hinge. You don't see the door there, so you don't think of it. And until you actually do it, it's not even in your radar to check to see if that's a thing.
It's we don't do that. We never have. We haven't broken any bottles yet, knock on wood. But that's actually a very good point because one of those bottles might have the blood of Jesus Christ in it and it might be priceless.
I swear that's what this one cost. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, man. That's incredible. So I don't remember our first one. I honestly don't, but we've been installing wine cellars a long time. So we don't actually do the racking or the cooling or any of that. And the specific reason is because we work with a local company called Red Leaf Solutions, and their business is only wine cellars. And they use us exclusively. So for the purpose of not stepping on their toes, we just decided not to do it. And it's okay because Red Leaf is one of our best customers across the board, not just for wine cellars, but just in general. And I remember, back in the day, wine cellars were just using basic shower door hardware, just a shower in front of, a wine rack. And then they started to become more complex, right? When people wanted to start cooling them. And so really your only options back then were like traditional storefront, which almost is overkill, or shower glass. So I think what we just ended up doing is just using the pivot hinges. And I remember the first style of wine cellar that we provided that kind of set us apart. I think they call it a catch 'em series, where we essentially use pivot hinges and we would miter, like if you had like a row of doors, each door edge would have a miter on it. So the handle side would have a back miter and the adjacent door to it had a front miter and duct tape on it, right? We did tons of those. But they're kind of scary to have glass like banging against glass, and they kind of went out of style.
Perfect too. No bows in the glass. I mean, everything's got to be dead nuts on.
Yep, no bows in the glass, and like you almost have to make sure that the torque on the hinge is set just in a little bit on each one. So this one pushes on that one, but not too much, because then it'll, it's like a chain reaction. They all start pushing. So that was a real pain.
Do you guys? Because I don't want to do you guys use shower door hinges when you're doing wine cellars? If it's chilled?
No. So, I mean, sometimes like if it's just a display and the customer wants the cheapest glass possible in front of their wine, then obviously cheap shower hinges and 3/8 glass, to most people looks the same. But what we like to use for our frameless doors is the hydraulic patch fitting hardware. Oh yeah, and this takes me back to a story. So check this out. I think this is the time I stopped using shower hardware for wine cellars. So one time we did a nice frameless 1/2 inch thick glass wine cellar in a basement, and these guys put like a super cooler in there. It like produced a lot of cold air. It produced so much cold air that the door would want to blow open from the pressure difference, right?
Yep.
So to get around that, obviously you just use like an offset pin and have the door, rest, always have pressure against the stop. But we ended up using instead, and what we use today is a hydraulic patch fitting hinge, because you can control that torque. It's not going to blow open. You can control the latching speed. We even did the catch 'em styles with the hydraulic hinges, and it was actually better because you could fine tune that pivot point, fine tune the closing speed, then latching speed. So yeah, for our frameless doors, that's what we use.
We do the same, and I came across that based on a similar experience where what ends up happening is once the unit gets chilled, the condenser that's producing the supply of cold air eventually stops cycling. But then once the thermostat, whether some of the cold air leaks out or dissipates, it fires back on. And that initial burst of air could sometimes pop the door open just enough where now the thing is running, let's say for 24 hours, and the cold air is just leaking out that 1/2 inch space where the door popped open. Now it's starting to sweat on the outside of it because it's just literally forcing all the air out. And that's when we decided we have to do something different. And we went to a little bit more robust hinge, like the hydraulic patch fitting. That's probably our go-to hinge on most of our units. We do use some of the door rail, depending on the aesthetics that they're trying to achieve or where it is. Like if it's in a clubhouse, like we have a lot of these gated communities down here where there's clubhouses or a commercial property. I like the one that you guys did with the Fallbrook. That to me came out amazing. I actually want to hear about that because we have a similar application. I just shared that video with a coworker of mine, Jay, yesterday, saying, look at what Brandon did here with Fallbrook, because we use Fallbrook in our showroom and for steam application, but I've yet to use it on wine cellar, but I want to. Especially where you have like 4 doors in a row. I just don't understand how you did that.
All right, yeah. So we're getting there. So the evolution, I guess, from our perspective, it started with frameless glass, shower hardware, figure out a way to seal the edges with window pile or mohair, or catch them. Right. Then from there, we moved up to the hydraulic patch fitting hinge, 1/2 inch thick glass, the cool better. But then we started doing like full frameless systems using laminated glass, because laminated glass plays better, blocks the sun rays, has a higher coefficient. So it just keeps the cool in better. Not really that much, but it's like people want fancy stuff, so they want to be able to brag to their friends. They have laminated glass, even though in reality it probably doesn't make that much a difference. But then from there, we started using the Fallbrook. So I discovered the Fallbrook at C.R. Lawrence booth at Glass Build. It was last year or maybe the year before. I don't know, but I remember it was like brand spanking new, and like Gareth, who used to work at Bole, I think he was the vice president of sales down there. He moved over to C.R. Lawrence, and I seen him, and I was like, "Oh, what's up, Gareth? What's up, man?" And he understands the kind of work that we do, and so he's like, "I got to show you something. Check this out." He brought me back. He showed me the Fallbrook system. He showed me the features, and when I saw the drop pin anchor and how the frameless door looked, I knew immediately that this is made for wine cellars. So that's how we're going to use it. And not only that, but like the fact that the door presses against the seals and it has that drop pin, that's what sold me. But then later I found out you could also use the hydraulic patch fitting hinge and just adapt it in there. So it's like highly adaptable as far as what you want to use. But then I also found out that you can use insulated glass units as a stationary panels. So that takes the insulation basically to the next level, right? So what we do now for our premium wine cellar is the Fallbrook with 3/4 inch insulated glass units. And then we use laminated glass at the door only. So only the door is frameless and only the door has laminated glass. I actually talked to the Fallbrook people like in the beginning. because they were like trying to get, bring their product to market, and they were going to move to the United States and set up a shop where they're going to do like full fabrications for you. But anyways, I talked to their engineer. Gareth set it up, the owner, Christoph. And so they have a guy. Yeah, they have a guy that specializes in drawing the custom fabrics. So Showers Online, Storefronts Online allows you to draw like basic fabrics, and it does all the breakdowns for you, just like a shower door. But a lot of times we're doing like highly custom applications. And so what I essentially do is I draw it to the best of my ability with my iPad or whatever I'm trying to accomplish, and actually send it to them, not Sierra Lawrence, but Christoph and his crew. And they will actually make a CAD drawing that shows cut files of each piece of glass, and they help you with basically the design. And then Sierra Lawrence essentially just supplies the parts. And so on those highly custom ones, like that's what I do. So on that project with the 4 doors, each door frame is actually its own separate frame. And we just screw them together, screw them up, screw them down. And this one didn't need the drop pin sill because you don't walk in it. So the door frame actually carried underneath the door as well. So that was essentially it. Just 4 door frames, screw together, screw up, screw down, and that's it. So the only drawback with the fabric that I found lately, and I know they'll fix it, hopefully, is that they don't really have like a good corner solution. So I just posted a fabric video a day ago, I think, maybe 2 days ago, where the corners, if you're looking at it from a plan view, they come together like this at an odd angle. And they don't really have a good solution for that. So what I end up having to do is just order a piece of flashing, essentially, exactly the same kind of flashing. Yeah, brake metal that goes on base shoe at that angle, and that's how we do it. And then I just did another one in Telluride where they actually wanted thicker frames, and Fallbrick only has one profile. So we ended up having to use 2-inch by 2-inch square posts and integrate it into the system. So like on almost every, like what I guess the point I'm trying to make is I wish that I could just order all of the parts from just one supplier and have that be it. And they fabricate it and send it to us. And I don't have to go to anywhere else to try to source powder coating or other parts. And so that's the downfall. And the parts are so brand new that it's actually a challenge to get them in, because like even Sierra Lawrence doesn't know what the part numbers are because they update it like, oh, that part number got updated to this, and they take forever. And then we don't know what they are either because we're brand new to it. So like we're trying to account all the, but anyway, sourcing all the material is kind of a nightmare. But if the customer wants it, of course we're to bring that to the table. So Fallbrook, Christoph, Gareth, Sierra Lawrence, if you're listening, please make the ordering process easier, and please provide all the products in one go. I think if you did that, it would sell a lot more.
I agree. Christoph's a good guy. I met him this year, and he's helping me on something right now. So yeah, I like Christoph. Where's he from? Is it Austria or Australia or?
No, they're from Austria, Germany.
Austria, that's where it is. Yeah, The Germans. Yeah. Brando, when you go to a customer's house and they tell you ahead of time, whether it's the builder or the residential client, that they're wanting to do a chilled wine cellar, what's like a couple things that you try to identify? Like, is there areas where you won't do a chilled wine cellar when you go into a residential home? Like, is there something that I'm kind of setting you up here because there's 2 things that I look for in particular because I've been burned on these things. So I already know if this chilled wine cellar is at this portion of the house, we're not doing it because I already know this is going to be an issue. So when you go, are there certain things that you're looking for right out of the gate?
No, to be honest, not necessarily in way of chilled versus not chilled. I just have like my pitch of all the different flavors of wine cellar that we have, and I can provide coefficients to whoever's designing the chiller itself. But I essentially leave that up to the builder and whoever's doing the cooling system. Most of the time, it's Red Leaf, and they think of all of that stuff ahead of time. They're like the geniuses, and they tell me what level of insulation that they want. So I haven't been burned in that way yet, but yeah, to answer your question.
If you're working with a company that specializes in wine cellars, that's a huge leg up. Because a lot of the ones that we're dealing with here, you got the designer, the homeowner tells the designer tells the builder, and the builder they got a million things they're already doing with the house as it is, right? And so it's like, oh, I guess I get an AC guy, and I guess I get a glass guy, and they're just kind of happy. And they all say, I hate doing these. And the reason they hate doing them is because they don't know all these little nuances, and they hate doing it because they know it's going to be a problem. And maybe it's because here in Florida, we might have some different conditions than you guys have. But for instance, the humidity. If a customer's telling me they want a chilled, frameless, chilled unit that they're going to chill down to 55 degrees, and it's somewhere near the front door, within 10, 15 feet of the front door, or a door that's going to actively be opening and closing, especially during summertime when the humidity is about 1,000,000%, I already know this thing's going to sweat. Now, there is a fine line from 60 to 55. I know people are like, well, it's not that big. When you're starting to deal with temperatures, 5-degree swing, especially in a summer here in Florida, that 5 degrees is massive, to the point where we've identified that when they say they want 55, I ask them, is that ambient wine temperature or ambient air temperature in the wine cellar, or is that in the bottle? Because if they have a thermostat that measures the temperature in the bottle, you see about a 4-degree difference. Meaning if the bottle is down to 55 after it's gone through its chilling process, the bottle's at 55, and I open the wine cellar door and all the air comes rushing out, that air conditioning unit isn't cycling right away. Because you have the bottle acting like, it's almost like an ice cube in a glass, right? It's acting as a secondary insulator. So it takes a little bit longer for that to, not to cool off, but to warm up. Mm-hmm. And so those are like the first thing I ask after they tell me the temperature, is that ambient room temperature in the wine cellar, or is that in the bottle? I'm always hoping it's in the bottle, because I think that bodes better, or bodes well for us. The humidity is, and then direct sunlight. If there's an area where there's going to be 3 or 4 hours of direct sunlight coming through a window and beating on that glass, I know that's another area that's susceptible to sweating. So those are like a couple.
So we don't have that problem in Colorado because we're like ultra dry. We're essentially a desert, and it's like never super duper hot, and most of the wine cellars are in the basement. So I've never dealt with sweating whatsoever because the humidity is practically non-existent. When I went down to Florida, like all these like dry patches on my forehead, they became normal. And when I got back, they all started flaking again. I'm like, damn. So I never had to deal with that for dry. But I see your point. Do you guys provide the cooling systems as well?
No. But I'm knowledgeable enough that if, like, at the end of the day, I want to sell the wine cellar. And if I could tell the customer really wants it, but the builder's kind of like trying to talk him out of it just because he doesn't know where to get something, I will refer them to, there's actually several plug and play chilling units. Like Whisper Cool has got a badass one. We actually have one in the showroom, and I installed it. It's 3 years old now. You go on their website, you type in the width, the depth, the height, it figures out the cubic square footage, and they tell you, this unit is designed for that space, and it's like plug and play. It's got a supply and a return that you can mount right, the whole unit would mount right above the ceiling, so the supply and return can come right through. Or I think you can bring it up to like 40 feet away and duct it in, which is another thing. That's another lesson I learned on the wine cellars, especially when it's frameless. Customer ends up calling me after the fact and says, this thing's too loud. I'm like, wow, what are you talking about? Well, come to find out, the builder had just put it right above the roof inside the wine cellar. And the condensing unit's right there, so it's just pitching down. All the other ones that I had done in the past, it was like your outside AC. That condensing unit is outside. And then all the ductwork kind of comes through your house, so you don't hear it. But if you go outside, the thing's loud. And so that's another thing I look for when we're doing frameless. Like, where are you putting this unit? Because I already know, even though that it doesn't have anything to do with us, it's going to end up being a talking point / problem. And so if it's a problem for the builder, it's going to be a problem for me, because I know that builder then is going to start talking people out of doing wine cellars. But we do not do the AC. We will handle the racking if they want us to. But at the end of the day, we really just want to do the glass.
Right. Do you get your racking from Vintage View?
They're one of them. And only because you and I are completely candid on this. The real reason why I don't love Vintage View, I think their product's good, customer service is good. They sell the products to everybody. So there's no protections for you and I. Mrs. Smith can call and get the same price I'm going to get. And then by the time we put our markup on it plus installation, if I give that price to Mrs. Smith, she's like, well, that's fucking bullshit. I can get it for this much. Like, well, okay, you got to order it. You got to design it. You got to receive it. You got to check it in. You got to put it together, install. So I don't love Vintage View because of that reason. But there's a company called Ultra Wine Racks, which is a sister company of that Whisper Cool. There's like 3 or 4 other kind of erector set, I call them, wine rack companies that we'll buy from. Really depends on the design or their budget or what they're looking for. Like I said, we do that a lot of times just to help the builder and solidify this whole thing, because at the end of the day, our bread and butter is the glass work. That's what we want to do.
Right.
Yeah. I wish we had a company like yours where they just specialize in that and they just retain us to put in the glass. That'd be a banger. Tell your guy to open up a store in Naples, Florida. We'll be his sub.
There was a guy that had a similar business model here in Colorado. His company is called Cool Wine Cellar, and I think he actually moved to your neck of the woods. So this guy's name is Eric, and he basically specializes in wine cellars, right? Huh. So maybe you should hit him up. That might be a good opportunity if he's still around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The wine rackings, it's very rare that we even mess with those because we partner with Red Leaf and they handle everything, like the insulation, cooling, wood, everything that goes into the wine cellar they handle, and we just do the glass for them. Otherwise,
what if it's this way? Customer, these houses are getting bigger. They got a dining room. They're like, man, there's this blank wall in the dining room. I just want some wine racks on the wall, and I want to put glass around it. It's not chilled. It's just kind of like I call them a trophy case. People want to show off their wine. They put glass around it. It looks like a trophy case. Maybe a customer calls you, and that Red Leaf is not involved. What do you do for the wine racking in that point? You just say you don't offer that?
When that happens, oddly enough, they usually already have their wine racks. And so I know that the headquarters is here in Colorado as well. And I know all those guys down there. So occasionally, like, they'll call me and be like, hey, these guys bought their wine racks. Would you want to install this? And I tell them no. Yeah. So that's cool. That's cool. They're, the guy's stepdad. I mean, it's not rocket science to put them in, but like it's all about the markup and material, right? That's where the money is to be made. Labor only jobs is not something that we do unless it was a favor, right? So for that reason, it's very, very rare. Maybe we install the wine racks like once, and it was just a favor because we built, the 4-sided wine box in the basement, and the lady she already had them. They were in the box. I was like, yeah, it would take like 2 seconds to just throw a couple of screws in for you, no problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are taking liability too, because let's face it, I don't know about out there, but here, somebody that's willing to put that kind of money in a wine cellar, some of these people have, let me tell you, collections. I don't know what the biggest one you've done, but we've seen some wine collections that people spend more money on wine than I spend on my house. It's crazy. And they're investors or they're collectors, and they're into this.
I understand, like, one of the hobbies, like, for people that take it seriously and have the huge wine cellars. Yeah, I've done wine cellars where, like the cellar itself is probably bigger than both of my dining rooms and kitchen combined, like racks and racks in somebody's house, right? And I guess his hobby is he'll buy wine, right, at a certain price, certain age, and he'll like store it. And then like he shifts them all down with age. And then by the time it gets to the last rack, that's like the oldest. And then he like resells them to other collectors or restaurants or whoever wants to drink.
Absolutely.
Right.
Some of these, there's some, I don't want to say insider trading, but there's what's called a wine specter. And the wine inspector puts ratings on these wines. And if you can identify like a good wine that hasn't been rated by the wine inspector, so maybe it's a $40, $50 bottle of wine and you buy 100 cases of it because you know it's some time in the near future the wine inspector is going to get it and rate it, and all of a sudden it becomes a 90-point wine. That goes from a $45, $50 bottle to a $200 bottle of wine. And, you know, it's like collecting baseball cards for rich people. I mean, it's a commodity that, you know, there's arbitrage on it once this wine inspector gets involved. And there's some people that are banking on that.
Yeah, it makes sense. It sounds like a fun hobby. It's not for me because I don't know shit about wine.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it is cool. And a lot of people, like honestly, like most people don't even drink wine. They just do it for the resale value, you know, specifically.
That's funny. So true. So true. You seen any humidors, like cigar rooms too, that are kind of a part of this as well?
No, not really. Not for some reason. I only did a cigar room once, just one time, the whole time I've been in Colorado. I guess people don't like cigars out here. I'm not sure. Maybe it's because we're so dry. I don't know.
There's a franchise out here. I imagine you guys have them called ABC Liquor, and they have a chilled wine room where we were retained to build this big, you know, wine wall. And then at the other end, they got this kind of like cigar room / humidor. So it was glass like all along the back of the store. And then in the front corner of the store where the cigars were, that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, but not popular here for whatever reason. I mean, I see them in the commercial spaces, like they exist, but we work primarily in custom homes and, you know, maybe once or twice in my whole career.
How are you marketing for the wine cellars?
I almost don't even have to because we work in custom homes. Every custom home has wine cellars expecting it already. And not only that, but I refer people to Vintage View. Red Leaf Solutions is a good customer of Vintage View. I even went down to their showroom, whatever it is, and I gave them a presentation on glass design, right? Like years ago. And since then, they actually draw the glass in their shop drawings up real nice. I kind of went off on a tangent. I forgot what the question was.
How you market them?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I guess the point I was trying to make with that story is they do it for me. So Red Leaf Solutions, they only focus on wine cellars. They'll always call us because we go the extra mile. You know what it is. And then Vintage View, because I went down there and I gave that presentation, and I think we did some glass in their showroom. I'm not sure. But then I always answer the questions whenever they have them. And I actually tag them if I know that they were involved in the social media, and then they repost it. And I know all the people down there. So they actually call me when a customer, homeowner, anybody could buy the racks, right? Well, they go to Vintage View, they buy the racks. They want their wine cellar built, but they don't want to spend the money on a specialist like Red Leaf. But they still need glass. So then they call us. So they come to us, in other words. And then by the time the job's all said and done, I go and do my content. I post it. I try to keep a good reputation. But primarily the content is there as a showroom to show the next person that's interested in in a Fallbrook or whatnot. So in other words, we don't really market that much outside of just content.
Yeah, same here. We're content. We do have our showroom, so we encourage people all the time to come into the showroom. Not that I think we bring them into the showroom more because we know our competition doesn't have anything in the way of that. So like if people are just imagine, take my architectural glass out of it, but they get 3 local companies here in Southwest Florida, and all of them are Showers Online quotes. All 3 look the same. When I tell, first of all, I'll send a quote out through Cellars online. Not that I wouldn't use it. It's just I want to have my own letterhead and our own presentation because I know most of our competition is just using that. And then secondly, by bringing them in or talking them into coming into the showroom by saying, listen, you're going to spend this kind of money to protect your investment in something that you love, your wine. I got to imagine you want to see this first so you can kind of have a baseline in your head of what some of these things should look like. Like, what is the tolerance that's acceptable on the glass? Like, if you don't see or touch or feel this, how do you know what to question or talk about after the install? Because a lot of times what people will say is, you know, if I'm called to one to fix on a spec home or something and it sells and they call us, you know, it's easy for us to go in after the fact and pick them apart. Not that I like doing that, but I try and get them on the front end, not scare them, but make them aware. Hey, before you spend this kind of money on this, I think you should do your due diligence and go in and at least see and touch so you can hold them accountable if it doesn't look that way when it's in your home. Because the glass guy will usually say, well, you know, that's the way the manufacturer suggests, and that kind of takes the burden off of them, but it leaves the customer, you know, kind of with a pile of shit in their hand. And so we actively encourage people to come into our showroom, like feel the way to the door. We show them our tolerances, you know, and if you get somebody to make an investment, especially after COVID, to get in their car, to come to the showroom, sit down at the table, touch and feel the 3 or 4 different doors we have on display, put up all the pictures on the TV. They get to meet Jay, myself, Matt. They see how clean our place is. You know, you get to check off a lot of boxes in their subconscious. And anybody that's come into our showroom to look at wine cellars, very few that we haven't done business with. And I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I agree that a showroom is perfect for those reasons. And I'm not opposed to them. We just don't have one because our office is really small. It's barely big enough for us to fit inside of it, just the office space. And we got like a small shop just big enough for one polisher, one table, 4 vans, right? But I do believe in showrooms. So I actually designed the showroom 4 times at the last company that I worked for. And so I really dig it. And not only that, but I do agree that coming to the showroom, if nothing else, if your competitors don't have a showroom, that's a leg up. And then there's also the sunk cost bias where you already spent the time to go to the showroom. You're more likely to commit, meet all the people. For all these reasons, I agree with that. But we just don't have one because of space, but we're definitely on it. So check this out. So we went looking at new buildings. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not. Yeah. So, right.
That's probably into a new building.
Yeah. So we're leasing right now. So that's our future showroom one day. Right. And then look at that shop.
It's massive. It's huge.
Yeah. So we were looking at buildings today because the lease is up in August, I believe. And so we're actually going to purchase this building. And then start building it out. So I cannot wait to design the showroom once again. And I'm 1,000% sure that if I go back to my previous company, all the stuff that I designed is probably still there and relevant today. So yeah, I'm a big believer in it. But because we don't have one, I have to find other ways by way of Instagram. Instagram is basically the showroom in your head. Yeah. And then I tell people like, since COVID, like we don't have the showroom, blah, 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 just being some bullshit. But I was like, why don't you let me come to you? I have pictures of anything you can imagine on my iPad. And if I don't, I can design a realistic rendering of exactly what your product is going to look like. Right. So I have like ways around that, which I'm using for now.
Of course. I don't think it's necessary. And if somebody had the means, if you were starting up a glass shop and you had the means to have a showroom, if you ask me, Keith, you're starting a company, do you have to have a showroom? Answer is no. In the beginning, you need money. So like you need sales and quick. And so outweighing $100,000 to outfit a showroom or however much, you got paint colors, carpet, furniture. You're not just going to lean up 20 pieces of glass against the wall. You're going to build a display. And if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. Right. And that costs money. However, if you have the means to do that, I don't think it's going to hurt you. I know if I was going out to spend 10, 15, $80,000 on a wine cellar, I'd want to touch and feel it. Me personally, maybe it's just because I'm frugal, or is everyone else they just cheap, fucking cheap. I'm a cynical person. I need to see and touch because I need to hold you accountable. Now, I'm going to want the drawings and I'm going to want to see photos, but I want to see your work. Because you might know what you're talking about, but if you're not the one that's coming out and doing the install and someone else, I need, me personally, I need to be able to hold somebody accountable. And seeing something else, because I have an eye for how the miters went together, what the caulking looks like. Oh, I see what tolerances is supposed to be. I don't want to hear after I spent that money, well, that's just kind of the way the program sets it up. Like that ain't going to cut it when someone's dropping $60K on a wine cellar. Mm-hmm. What's the most expensive one you sold?
I sold so many of them. It's like really hard to think.
Any six-figure ones?
Oh yeah. So I got one that I have quoted right now that I'm 90% sure we're going to get it. 172 grand for the wine. And so, but the reason it's so expensive, it's like in a steakhouse downtown. So, it wants to be nice, but it's basically going to be like a steel frame, right? That goes up 18 feet, 4 sides, right? So I'm working with my steel guy, insulated glass, of course. And then, they're going to provide their own racking or whatever and their own cooling, and then like a ladder, one of those cool ladders that kind of slides or whatever. That will be the most expensive one if we get it. And I'm 90% sure that we're going to get it.
That's an absolute banger. I hope you get that one. That'll make for some killer content. Have you ever been?
Because it's a restaurant,
Yes, exactly. Have you ever been in Vegas, the Hotel Mandalay Bay?
I don't remember.
You got to look this up. They got a high-end like steakhouse in Mandalay Bay, but along this one wall, it's got to be 4 stories tall. It's a glass enclosure, whole wine wall, but in between the glass and where the wine is, there's these women. They must have these like cables on them, and they're like angels. And so when you select your bottle, let's say it's, up in this cubby on the 3rd floor, third floor height, they hit a button and this angel, in a very provocative type of, it's entertainment. She goes, whisks up in the air, grabs the bottle, comes floating down. And then there's this whole big presentation. But if you haven't seen this, you got to look it up. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna look it up. And so, listening to you talk about that, I can think of it was a nearly 6-figure wine cellar enclosure that we did. I think the hotel is called the Sebastian. I think that's what it's called. It's in Vail Village in Vail, Colorado. It's in their main restaurant. And this wine cellar was like really cool because this was like way back in the day, before we had all these tools to make these kinds of jobs easier. But it was basically a silo, right? So it was a tube like this that was maybe 6 or 7 feet in diameter, and it was glass on all the edges.
Oh,
and so,
cool.
Yeah, so it sat like on a steel frame that was also curved, and then we had like steel stops that we mounted into the soffit, and that one was really cool. I'm pretty sure I can find pictures of that one too.
That's cool. Well, I hope you close that deal. That'd be a nice one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, do not get the trophy too early.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. Well, wine cellars. Do you design? So, how do you like order your glass for your wine cellars? What programs do you use?
Okay, the program that we use internally after we've identified budget, design, the utilitarian purposes, and we kind of go over all the deets. I say we, Matt does it because I don't do it. We use SketchUp. And we've already kind of created our own like little warehouse and inventory of parts, like all the parts that we use. And if it's something that we don't have that we're going to buy, like when you had to buy that weird angle piece of brake metal, we can draw it out. But we put together a set of shop drawings in SketchUp for them to sign off on. So they'll come in the showroom, we go out to the house, we put together a proposal. Once we've received the deposit, and only after we receive the deposit, we'll produce a set of shop drawings. Once that is signed off on, typically, depending on the application, we will go out and install all the metal. And we'll actually take hard cut size dimensions of glass in the field. And the installers are actually importing that back into, we use Trello. I don't know if you've heard of Trello.
I heard of it. I don't know what it is, though.
It's a software program that allows, it's on all of our devices through my architectural glass. So from even at point of sale to the iPads in the installers' trucks, they kind of see the progression of the whole job. They have access to all of it, and you can mitigate what they have access to. But as an installer, which you were, and as I was, the more information you have prior to walking into that job site, I think the better it is. Because you're not just being thrown in there and saying, hey, put all this shit together. You kind of have some more context to what you're getting into. So like, for instance, the day we go out and do the walkthrough or measure, either myself or Jay, we're taking videos of everything. All that's in there. The takeoff sheet, the drawings, the inventory that we're going to be using, what type of hinges, what type of channel. They know the substrates that they're going to be attaching to, any special instructions about center lines of walls, or, what if we got to use a fine tool to cut the baseboards out. So we use SketchUp, and then when they're out there after they've installed that, they're inputting the glass dimensions right into that Trello, and then Jay and I will do the glass order from there and set it off to manufacturing.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I like to use Shaper 3D for mine. And like one thing that I've done for people that gotta have shop drawings but they're not fully committed is I'll just say, okay, for $350, I'll make you the best shop drawings you've ever seen, and then if you go for it, then that gets credited to the order. Just so they don't feel like their backs against the wall, but they still get what they want. Now, I've done that, and not once has somebody not ordered, even though it was just a deposit really right away, because it's that sunk cost again, right? Now, they could just take my drawings and go to the next glass guy and say, here.
That's what I've been burned on that like 3 times in the past. Yeah. You know what it comes down to is, I think when I got burned on it in the past, I wasn't having good enough conversations with these people. I don't think I spent enough time to build up enough rapport to, because building rapport is the fastest way to getting to trust. Because once you have their trust and they trust you, which is more important, once they trust you, I don't think any of that would happen. So the fact that nobody's taken your shop drawings that you've given them and went and shopped them with other companies tells me that they trust you.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. And that's another form of trust building. Like, hey, you don't have to fully commit, but these shop drawings take a long time. I just got to charge you for the time at least, right? And they usually, it's very, 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 very few times that happened. There was like maybe like once where like I provided shop drawings like for free, and they were good shop drawings, but that's because this was a new builder, right, in Steamboat Springs. It was a glass railing, and this was the first project that we were going to work on, and they had a bunch of questions where they actually needed like shop drawings. And me, like, not having ever worked with these people before, I was like, I'll tell you what, I usually charge for this, but this time I'm going to do this for you for free if it's going to help us, win this work. And I did, and it did. And now that builder is a customer for life, which, by the way, custom home builders are who we put number 1 on our priority list because it's repeat, right?
Yeah, we love our custom home builders, the remodelers, the ones that are actively churning multiple houses. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, man. So on your frameless, if somebody has a frameless wine cellar and they want it to be sealed, How do you seal the edges in a way that doesn't look like garbage? Yeah.
I agree with you. We've tried all the bowl seals and the H gasket. I don't like anything that wraps around the glass. To me, that is it's not frameless at this point, right? Because you kind of, I say it's litter. My eye goes right to it. And if I don't like it, I don't want to sell it because I wouldn't want it. I do like the mole hair. When that mole hair is stuck to the edge of the glass, when the glass is in its closed position and it's not an egregious gap and it's not, I'm not talking like a rat tail of mole hair, quarter inch maybe at max. I actually think that looks good. And we haven't had problem. We've installed frameless. We probably have north of 30 at least units out there that are actively at 55 degrees inside that are frameless, that are sealed with mole hair on all the verticals and probably along the top edge. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'll put a vinyl sweep at the bottom.
Yeah. So that's cool. We use the same thing. So like I typically like on the hydraulic patch fitting hinges, we have like a 9/16 gap underneath typically. And so on the bottom edge, I'd like to use the T-strip. It's like the T-strip polycarbonate that sticks on the edge. So it basically does the same thing as a sweep, but it doesn't wrap around the edge. And I find that T-strip like matches that gap like nearly perfectly every time. And then I do like the window pile on the edges and on the top. And then I like to get like, I order like different thicknesses. So you got like quarter or 3/8. And then if we're kind of, usually it wants 3/8 at the top or a quarter. So we can kind of like pick and choose the window pile that matches the gap best. But what I love specifically about window pile is that it'll shrink, right? It'll collapse in the spaces that are tighter. So it's a little more forgiving, like on your gaps. And I don't think that it looks bad on the edge. I do think it looks, it looks purpose built. It doesn't look like a shower door. I know it's, someone told me it looks like vagina hair on the glass. I think vagina hair looks 1,000 times better than plastic.
People still have vagina hair.
Yeah, it's like a really long lining strip,
Good one, Brando. That's funny. Yeah. So that's how we seal that. Every application is different. I swear, that's one of the things I love about wine cellars. Literally every single one we've done has been different. Every one. Sometimes customer wants a different type of flooring inside the wine cellar than outside the wine cellar. And we will take, we use the deep, either FHC or CR1 channel kind of around the top as a header. So, and sometimes they have a shallower one. It's like an 11/16 on the bottom, maybe inch and 5/8 at the top, where you can kind of pockets at the glass. But if we're in there early enough, we'll put the channel, we cut these wood strips that are the same width as the bottom channel, and we'll attach it to the floor. They'll do all the flooring inside and out. Then we'll go back, we'll pull that wood strip out, and we'll drop in that bottom channel. Sometimes I got to put spacers underneath it to lift it up, just get it flush with the floor. But I'll run it all the way across. So let's say there's 2 returns and across the front. I'll run it everywhere. Put all the fixed panels in, and then there's a snap-in filler that can go in on the bottom. But right on the hinge side, I'll put a block of wood down in there. Then I'll put the snap-in filler all the way across and attach the patch fitting on top of that. And then you could put the mole hair sometimes on the filler, not on the door. Because I found sometimes when some of these houses, you get a 3-foot door and you get out 3 feet from the door. Sometimes the ground isn't always perfectly level. So having a vinyl underneath there in a closed position, it's perfect. And by the time it gets 3/4 open, it starts dragging. And then that's just a snowball effect from there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what we do to kind of mitigate that situation, which isn't a whole lot, to be honest, is we actually use the C.R. Lawrence half moon threshold that you would typically put on a leaky shower door because it's about a 1/4 inch tall. It's almost the exact width of that patch hinge or even a hinge if you were using that. And then you can still put like the 3/8 window pile on the bottom edge. And then in the closed position, it should touch that. And it's actually nice to walk over because it's round. It's almost made to be
You
walked
can't
on.
trip on it. Your toe can't because it's rounded. Yeah, I like those too. We've done that before. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's a good one. Yeah. How about handles? You got any like really cool far out handles outside of the norm?
Yeah. So one time we did a shower or a wine cellar for a porn star, and she had this giant double-headed monster. So we took pivots from a ladder pole. I'm sorry, I just made that up. I couldn't keep going. I just made that up. I'm sorry, guys. That didn't happen, but it'd be cool if it did.
Hopefully, it's new and not used. We
Well,
we
depending on who
have
it
a
is.
yeah, we have a client that we did recently where it was a ladder pole, 4-footer metal that had they wanted like leather inside. Well, we ended up getting the leather, but the guy is a hunter down here in Florida. Some of these people like to go out and hunt them. They get these tags twice a year and they go hunt gators. And they eat the meat and then they make stuff out of, its skin. Well, they had enough of this skin left over that they cut out the leather that was like mortised into the center of this ladder pole and wrapped it with gator skin, and they dyed it different colors. I was listening to this going, you gotta be kidding me. This has gotta look like dog shit. It was awesome. It was unbelievable. It was something that I would have never thought of, but it was pretty cool how they were able to cure the skin. Or I don't know all the nomenclature behind that, but they dyed it and softened it and sewed it on there, and it was really nice. It was real nice.
Yeah, we mostly just do the basic ladder pull, or I always try to sell people on the locking ladder pull because I like that one a lot. But I think one of the cooler ones that we've done in recent memory, anyway, is this guy had like planks from a wine barrel, right?
Oh,
So you figure a wine barrel is about, I don't know,
yeah.
48 inches or so in diameter, and so
Yep.
like a wine, yeah. So a guy like made handles out of that,
That's
and we
cool.
just figured out a way to attach it to the glass, and it was really cool because they also had a wine barrel inside that was also a table, so it matched really well. But yeah, other than that, we've probably done every fancy handle that has ever been produced on a wine cellar. Eventually. Oh, you know what? I just had a. Do you guys do locks on your wine cellars mostly?
Some of them, not no. I would say on if you were to look at all the wine cellars we did, no, we haven't. A lot of them do not have locks. Some do, but most of them overall, no.
Right. Yeah. So we do locks most of the time because by request. And I like using the FHC slip-on locks because they can slip right onto the edge of the door. Doesn't require holes. But I have this story. So we used to use the AMR North American patch fitting lock, from Sierra Lawrence. But it requires the cutout and it requires the cylinders. They're kind of a pain in the ass to line up just right. So one time, like we were like trying to service one of those or install one of those, and one of our guys was in the wine cellar. This was like the ultra insulative, wine cellar, right? And like he got it stuck, and so he was stuck in the wine room, and he was like freezing. So we had to go tell the homeowner, like, hey, can we come turn this off? I think he's gonna freeze in there. Eventually he figured out how to get him out, but yeah, I don't like using those kinds of locks because they're a pain
I
in the
think
ass.
I know what you're talking about because we had one of those cylinders on a door rail, and we had a similar situation when Jay was stuck in the office, and we had to get the Sierra Lawrence rep on. And
Oh,
there's a certain way they have to line up with each other in order for it to activate. But yeah, we learned that lesson the hard way too. Except it wasn't cold. We were lucky enough that it wasn't cold.
right on. Okay, well, I think we're getting strapped for time, so let's land the plane here. And from your perspective, do you think, honestly, that wine cellars add resale value to your real estate?
1,000%, especially here in Florida because we don't have basements like you guys out in Colorado. So not only is it a utilitarian purpose, but just based on the ones that you've posted, I post, a lot of them are like a work of art. I mean, they go in and more often than not, it's a feature in the home. You go in and you see this dining room. You're like, holy shit, there's this big wine cellar with the wine displayed on the wall. And so not only does it serve function for storage, but it also has the aesthetic appeal. So I would say 1000% it adds value to the house. And I dare somebody to tell me otherwise.
Yep. And that is one of the main things I bring up to people when they're on the fence about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's smart. That's actually really smart. Yeah, you're not just buying pieces of glass to put wine behind. You're investing in your wine collection. And by the way, like we talked earlier, some people down in their base, they're spending thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on their wine. You're going to cheap out when you're shopping for the person that's going to enclose that, that's responsible for keeping that temperature controlled environment so your wine doesn't go bad. That's not a place you want to be saving money. So you definitely want to hire a professional that has the experience and knows what the hell they're doing.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah. Wine cellars are legit. Like we love them because I feel like it's another opportunity for us to basically shine above competition in the market who doesn't have any idea what a patch fitting hinge is or a fallbrook or how all the sills need to work or what kind of gaps need to be. A lot of glass companies can only provide shower glass because they're only using showers online. They have no idea how to like order stuff that's not connected to that, right?
Yeah. There's a time and place for that, but if it's a chilled unit, you don't want to just it's not just a glorified shower door. Mm-hmm. It's much more than that.
A work of art. That's what I think. And I'm an artiste. That's why I love wine cellars so much, because each one is like a work of art. And I tell the guys, when we do a dope wine cellar, we're wrapping up and everyone's all impressed by it. I'm like, yeah, this is like my baby, like I raised this thing. I taught it how to read and how to seal
yes.
And it was in my brain. I sold the idea. I measured it. I ordered it, all these things. And now it's beautiful. Yeah. It's up and everybody loves it. And the guys love it too, because they get to be a part of it. And, eventually I bring them in and I show them how to do it for themselves. So that's really cool.
That's cool. All righty, Aphrodite.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you next Tuesday. By the way, this is going to be a weekly thing, everybody. We were thinking of some names. Rodney actually helped me with this name, but I thought that Glass GPT, Glazer Podcast Talk, right, could be the name, and that'll just be the basic brand name that'll be attached to every video.
I love it. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you next week.